The richest guy disguised himself as a janitor while picking out a daughter to adopt from the orphanage. When he showed up, my little sister and I could suddenly see these floating comments. Go with him. He's actually the richest guy in Jiang City. Being his adopted daughter means becoming a wealthy little princess. While everyone was avoiding the janitor, my sister quickly hugged the janitor. Uncle, I don't think you're dirty. I'm the best kid here. Will you take me with you? My sister got her wish and left with him. Before she went, she smugly whispered to me, sis, secretly telling you, he's not a janitor. He's the richest guy in Jiang City. When I become the rich man's daughter, bullying you will be even easier. But my sister didn't know I had been reborn. In a past life, I was taken by the richest man pretending to be a janitor from the orphanage. There are no ugly duckling to swan stories in the real world. The richest guy never wanted a daughter but a toy for his troubled son. He's so dirty, his family's probably poor. I don't want to be adopted by a family like that. They probably can't even afford meat. The girls in the orphanage openly gossiped about the janitor. But my usually talkative sister said nothing, standing by. Her friend smirked and said, Tracy, what do you think? Who in their right mind would go home with him? Tracy didn't respond and instead suddenly hugged the janitor. Uncle, I don't mind that you're dirty. I'm the best kid here. Will you take me with you? People were shocked and thought she was crazy, but I just smiled knowingly. She wasn't crazy. She could see the floating comments too. When the headmaster brought in the janitor to pick a girl, my sister Tracy and I could both see the comments. Go with him. His real name is Daniel and he's the richest man in Jiang City. As his adoptive daughter, you'll become a wealthy little princess. Daniel likes pure-hearted girls. He's only pretending to be a janitor to test you. Daniel scanned the room, finally looking at me. Just as he was about to speak, I waved my hand by my nose and said, wow, not only dirty, he smells bad too, must be him. Tracy is brave enough to hug him. I feel disgusted by just getting a bit close. The light in Daniel's eyes quickly dimmed. He turned back to Tracy and patted her head. You don't mind me being just a janitor? Tracy nodded wisely. Uncle, no job is high or low. It's not shameful to earn with hard work. As long as I'm fed and warm, I'm happy. Daniel was pleased with her answer and told the headmaster he wanted to adopt Tracy in the orphanage dorm. Tracy was packing. The girls gathered around. Tracy, aren't you taking more stuff? That janitor's house might not even have a bed for you. I've secretly saved $200. Take it, Tracy. Your life might be tougher than it was here. A boy nudged me and said, Susan, as her sister, why didn't you stop this? That janitor originally wanted you. Tracy stepped in to protect you from hardship. If you have a heart, you'd tell the headmaster you'll go home with the janitor. You and Tracy look alike. He probably can't tell the difference. Oh, playing the hero to save Tracy? Better ask if she even wants that. Tracy looked mad. Tracy was leaving, but I was staying. So I thought of going along with him to gain favor and avoid bullying later. I quickly held Tracy's hand. Sister, life at the janitor's home must be tough. How about I go instead? The comments flashed rapidly. Susan wants to steal your wealthy life. Don't let her. You're just one step away from being a rich man's daughter. Tracy, don't be silly. Susan seems like the evil stepsister who tries to steal everything from the heroine. Tracy's eyes turned sharp upon seeing these. She pushed me away and said, Sis, I appreciate your concern, but being adopted by the janitor is my choice. Whatever comes, I'll accept without complaints. Of course she wouldn't complain. Walking out of the orphanage, she'd be met with a limited edition Rolls-Royce and a personal butler. I wanted to say more, but seeing Daniel and the headmaster enter, I stayed silent. Tracy, are you all packed? Seeing Tracy stuff her old blanket into a sack, Daniel smiled. You really don't need to bring so much. My home has everything. Indeed, Daniel's home had everything, including a basement where excitement awaited. Tracy wiped the sweat off her face. It's okay, Uncle, the more I bring, the less you need to buy, saving money. Her response pleased Daniel, and he took her hand. A girl as sensible as you should be cherished. Let's go home, Uncle. Under everyone's sympathetic gaze, Tracy followed Daniel out of the dorm. But she came back, pulling me aside. Susan, I need to tell you something important. Walk me out. We were sisters after all, so I didn't refuse. At the orphanage gate, 2 Rolls-Royces stood side by side. Clearly, Tracy hadn't anticipated that. Her eyes lit up, too shocked to speak. While Daniel got in the car, Tracy whispered in my ear, "Sis, just so you know, he's not a janitor but the richest guy in Jiang City. Once I become his daughter, we won't be in the same world anymore." I let out a small laugh, pretending to be surprised. "Really? Well, a luck like yours, that's like finding a four-leaf clover. Lucky you." Too, seeing I didn't react the way she imagined, my sister seemed a bit annoyed. "You're just jealous, aren't you? But too bad. You and your envy will be staying back at the orphanage," she said. I didn't respond and simply watched her leave happily. Tracy doesn't know that I've been reborn. In the previous life, it was the billionaire acting as a janitor who adopted me from the orphanage. But he wasn't looking for a daughter. He wanted a plaything for his sickly son. Tracy didn't show up at school for a week after she left. People speculated that maybe the janitor couldn't afford to send her to school anymore and forced her to drop out. Others wondered if she was being mistreated at the janitor's home. George, the guy who stood up for Tracy last time, kicked my desk. "Hey, has Tracy contacted you?" he asked. I looked up at him, straightening my desk. "No, irraplia." He clicked his tongue and shouted in the classroom, "Has anyone heard from Tracy?" Everyone shook their heads. Someone mentioned sending Tracy several messages, and she didn't reply. George suggested, "Why don't we ask the principal about Tracy? And if the janitor's not treating her right, let's get her back." A group of nosy girls agreed, saying they wanted to fight for Tracy's justice. Everyone started to head toward the principal's office. "Wait!" Someone suddenly shouted from the crowd. "Check Instagram. Tracy just posted something." Everyone pulled out their phones, and so did I. Tracy had posted an Instagram with the caption, "Thanks, Dad. I've turned another page of the world's book." The 9 photos showed different places abroad. Everyone was confused. Did Tracy Photoshop this? "No way a janitor has the money to take her abroad," someone said. I cleared things up for them. The person who came to the orphanage wasn't a janitor. He's Daniel, the richest guy in Jiangcheng. What? You're kidding, right? That janitor was a billionaire? Tracy got adopted by the richest guy? The crowd buzzed with chatter. Some were envious of Tracy's luck, wishing they were adopted instead. Some came over to me, asking, "Susan, how do you feel about your sister becoming the billionaire's daughter? Aren't you upset?" "Your own, sis." I shrugged, put on my earbuds. The city-wide exam is next week. I've already told the principal I refuse any adoption. This time I'm carving my own path. Just as I put on my earbuds, the bell rang. It was our homeroom teacher's class next. Even though everyone was astir, they quickly returned to their seats. The sharp clacking of high heels echoed through the hallway, and the room quieted. From the doorway, a girly voice laughed. "Teacher, my dad was afraid I'd pick up bad habits from those fancy schools. So I'm not transferring just yet." It was Tracy. "She's back?" The teacher's attitude toward Tracy did a complete 180. She stood at the classroom door, stepping back to let Tracy in. "Tracy's back. Let's have her introduce herself again." In just a week, Tracy had completely changed. Her expression was haughty, the brand name clothes boosting her confidence, her former insecurities gone. It seemed as if she always belonged to the White family, not just a week after being adopted. "Hi, I'm Tracy, the adopted daughter of the White family. And the only daughter of the White group. Yes, the janitor who came to adopt was actually a billionaire, Daniel." Tracy, or now we should call her Tracy, barely finished when the class erupted again. Even though I had just announced her identity, hearing it from her own mouth was something else. Someone asked, "Tracy, you're the White family's daughter now, why come back to school here?" Tracy smiled slightly. "Even though I don't lack material things now, I grew up with you all and I can't bear to leave. So I decided to finish high school here." Someone quickly flattered her. "Tracy, you're amazing. The White family must be super rich, right? I saw all the places you went on Instagram. Do you live in a villa now? Can we visit?" When someone moves up a rank and then comes back, it's not out of nostalgia. It's to enjoy the praise and envy from those who were once equals. And in the orphanage, what Tracy wanted most was my adoration and jealousy. But she was out of luck. Since she stepped onto the stage, I only glanced at her briefly. George, the one always backing her up, was the first to lead applause. "Let's give a warm welcome. Tracy's back." After the applause, as Tracy was about to step down, George looked at me and shouted to Tracy, "Tracy, sit next to me. If anyone bullies you, I'll protect you." Ignoring him, she walked right to my table-mate and placed her phone on top of his worksheet. "I'd like to sit here. Could you move?" Though she sounded like she was asking, her hand showed no room for negotiation. My table-mate immediately stood up to make way. Of course." Sitting next to me, she glanced at my test paper, smirked. "Working hard, huh? At best, you get into Oxford. After that, what? How much would you make? Why not work at White instead? Be my assistant?" Tracy's arrogance was overwhelming. At that moment, I knew her return was all about me. Point 3. Since there's no way to dodge it, I figured I might as well be her most loyal minion. To avoid giving myself away, I didn't shift my attitude too quickly. "Don't use your usual tactics to humiliate me." Suddenly, Tracy was in high spirits. She laughed and clapped in class. "Susan, that holier-than-thou attitude of yours is so my style." She got closer, gripping my chin firmly. "And I've always despised that high and mighty attitude since I was a kid. This time I want to see you willingly become my lapdog." I stubbornly turned my head, not willing to give in. Just then I noticed comments scrolling by. "This main character vibe is awesome. I can't stand pretentious people. I want to see Tracy turn Susan into her dog. That I just need to see if Susan can keep up her superior act in front of money and power." What to do? The thought of Susan being turned into a dog already makes me laugh. Tracy probably saw the comments too. After a few seconds of confusion, her smile grew wider. But realizing we were still in class, she eventually let go and signaled the teacher to start the lecture. During the class, Tracy was on her phone the whole time. She didn't listen for even a second, but the homeroom teacher didn't bother with her, knowing full well that she wasn't banking on academics anymore. After class, Tracy tossed her homework at me. "Do it for me. You're so smart. From now on, you'll do all my assignments." I was just about to toss it back when Tracy stopped me. $100 a word, you really not gonna do it?" She was all smug. "Nobody's taking you in. The orphanage will only keep you until 18. Be a good dog for me and maybe you won't have to worry about your college fees." She had a point. I needed to get as many benefits as possible before she was thrown in the basement. "I'll write it. When do I get the money?" Tracy opened her limited edition handbag and pulled out a stack of $100 bills. Just as I was about to grab them, she tossed them into the air, scattering them all over the classroom. Everyone was stunned, wanting to pick them up but hesitating. Tracy pointed at me. "Pick them up on your knees. Any extra cash is yours." She really underestimated me. This kind of humiliation is child's play compared to what I endured last time in that basement. Everyone thought I'd walk out dignified and proud. But I didn't say a word, knelt down, and started collecting the money one bill at a time. I counted while picking up, and it turned out to be a whole $3,000, enough for half a year's expenses. Someone else got greedy and tried to pick it up too, but Tracy glared at them. "You want to be a dog like Susan too?" They stood up, scared. Realizing her tone was harsh, Tracy quickly pulled out $200 and shoved it into the person's hand. "Don't get me wrong, I'm gentle. Just not with Susan. After school tonight, I'm treating everyone to hot pot," she said with a fake smile, glancing at me, "except for Susan. She has to do my homework." That was bullying, and not a single person stood up for me. Tracy was the White family's wealthy heiress. They all wanted in on her hot pot treat. From that day, it seemed obvious to everyone that Tracy came back to humiliate me. To show their alliance, they joined in tormenting me. They poured glue on my chair, put chalk dust in my thermos, spat in my lunchbox. It went on and on till I could hardly bear it. I knew Tracy's reckoning would come when she went into that basement. To not let it interfere with my studies, I decided to surrender to Tracy. We grew up together. "I'm begging you, can't you leave me alone?" I lowered myself, tears in my voice, as I pleaded to her in the dorm where it was just the two of us. Watching my defeat, Tracy felt elated. She fiddled with her new manicure. "I can, but only if you become my lapdog, ready when I call, gone when I shoot." As long as Tracy didn't affect my college entrance exams, I didn't care about being a dog. After I became her lackey, classmates bullied me less. But Tracy didn't hold back. She made me wake at 5 a.m. to walk to the White family mansion to escort her to school and accompany her back by car at 10 p.m. She refused to eat school food and had me run 5 kilometers to fetch takeout from a mall. If she found a gray hair, she'd rip out 100 of mine. If she got a pimple, she'd poke my face. If she was in a foul mood, I'd get a couple of slaps that I endured until the final citywide exams finished. On the day the results came out, it was Tracy's birthday. She invited the whole class to the White family villa. The dorm girls were chatting about which dress to wear, but I pulled out new tight leather clothes, bold earrings, and put on dark purple lipstick. Tracy couldn't help but laugh when she saw me. "Susan, what are you wearing? Your taste is awful. But that's good, you won't overshadow me." The White family's estate exuded nobility with its European architecture, walls lined with shimmering jewels, just as opulent as my last life. In the ballroom, a gigantic 9-layer cake dazzled everyone. "This is the biggest cake I've ever seen. I never even got a birthday cake at the orphanage. Tracy, you're too lucky." Some even compared. Tracy has a natural princess life while others are just maids from birth. The flattery made Tracy giggle uncontrollably. "All right, let's turn off the lights, make a wish, and blow out the candles." When the lights went out, only the candlelight from the cake remained. As soon as the candles were blown out, memories of my past life in the basement flooded my mind. I started shaking uncontrollably. I tried to calm myself, telling myself the lights would soon flicker back on. But after several seconds, there was still no light at all. "Why aren't the lights coming back on?" Someone shouted in the dark. "Tracy, did your house lose power? For how is this even possible?" Everyone's voices were right there in my ear. I shouldn't have been that scared. But fear crept in and my ears started to ring. I crouched down, hugging myself tightly. Amidst the noise, suddenly the doors to the banquet hall flung open. "Tracy, happy birthday." A familiar voice came through, sending a shiver down my spine. It was Joe, Daniel's crazy son. I forced myself up, trying to act normal so he wouldn't notice anything odd. Joe walked in with an even bigger birthday cake. "Big brother," Tracy exclaimed, both surprised and happy. "Didn't you say you were too busy to come back for my birthday?" Joe gave her cheek a little pinch. "How could Big Brother miss your birthday?" "Tracy, happy 18th birthday. I'll always love you." The lights came on, and after seeing Joe and Tracy's interaction, on-screen comments started flooding in. "Joe is way too sweet. He just came back right after a meeting to be here for Tracy's birthday. I gotta admit, they're cute together. Is it okay to ship them? They're not real siblings, so why not? I love a good forbidden romance. They match so well. It'd be great if they could actually be together." Just as the comments disappeared, I caught a glimpse of Tracy's blushing ears. Seems like I didn't need to meddle. The comments were already messing with her head. To make me jealous, Tracy pulled me over. "Big brother, this is Susan, my sister." Joe looked at me, eyebrows slightly furrowed. "What a gross outfit," he said. Hearing this, I suddenly felt at ease. Tracy secretly smiled and teased Joe, "Brother, she's just got her own style. Unlike me, I'm a sweet little cake." Joe lovingly patted her head again. After finishing the cake, the party ended. Joe offered to take us back to the orphanage. An ominous feeling surged within me. When Joe specifically asked for me to ride with him, that feeling peaked. In the car, he gave me a glance. "Your face doesn't suit that kind of outfit. You've got a sweet and simple look, should dress like Tracy." I raised my finger and picked my nose right in front of him. "That's Tracy, not me. I don't like dresses. Plus, I shower like once every 10 days, wash my hair once a month, wear my clothes inside out when they get dirty, and only change my socks once a month. I'm not into being all prim and proper." Watching this elaborate act, Joe's face darkened. "You really don't care about cleanliness?" I rolled down the window and spit outside. "Yep, Tracy and I have always been different. She's sweet and obedient. I'm wild and rugged, don't care about appearances. Oh, and usually I curse when I speak, but since you're Tracy's brother, I've toned it down a bit today." After learning this about me, Joe didn't say another word the whole way back. Once we got to the orphanage, I just stepped out when, before I could even say thanks, Joe sped off, leaving me with exhaust fumes. Perfect. Just a perfect day. In this life, I wouldn't be Joe's plaything anymore. I'd just gotten back to my dorm when Tracy's calls started blowing up my phone. "You slut, did my brother really take you home alone?" Her voice was piercing, like I'd just stolen Joe from her. I quickly reassured her Joe did take me alone, but it was for you to drop me off. That calmed Tracy down a bit. "For me?" "Yeah, he asked me loads about you." She sounded suspicious. "What did you tell him?" "I praised you, of course. I said you've been sweet and adorable since we were kids, the most obedient at the orphanage. Tracy seemed pleased. What was his expression when he heard that? I pretended to think for 2 seconds. Can't remember exactly, but I'm sure he likes you a lot. Like her girlish feelings were exposed, Tracy got shy. Stop it, Joe's my brother, she said. I chimed in, well, not by blood. I dug a bit deeper. Tracy, you're the White family's adoptive daughter now. If Joe marries someone else, you won't be the White family's only princess. If that woman doesn't like you and Joe gets influenced by her, you could be in a tough spot. Since Joe already has a thing for you, why stay as an adopted daughter when you could be the lady of the house? The little spark in Tracy's heart ignited. Sis, I've never chased anyone, don't know how. I smiled slightly. Easy, I can teach you. Pleasing Joe is something I know inside out. Tonight when he's asleep, sneak into his bed and say you had a nightmare. Tracy hesitated. Isn't that too forward? No way, I assured her. For others maybe, but Joe's totally a dark and twisted guy. Okay, I'll try tonight. But if it fails, it seems she regained her senses. You're gonna pay. From then on, Tracy rarely came to school. Sometimes I only saw her once a week. Finally, I had some peace to prepare for the college entrance exams a month away. She didn't reach out or bother me again. Clearly my plan worked and her focus shifted from me to Joe. Just when I thought these calm days would last until after exams, the day before the exams, long-forgotten comments suddenly popped up again. Joe rejected Tracy's confession last night. Poor Tracy, our baby. I can tell Joe likes her too. Why did he turn her down? Is he playing hard to get? Obvious to anyone that he's into her. Blame Susan's lousy advice. Too aggressive, Joe must like reserved girls. I hadn't finished reading the comments when a sharp utility knife came lunging at me. I dodged, but my left arm got /.5 blood soaked through my white school uniform. But Tracy, the one responsible, showed no remorse. She was about to slap me when George stopped her. Tracy, calm down, he said. Killing someone in the classroom would be bad. Tracy glared at him but then calmed down and had some boys take me to the equipment room and tie me up. After everyone left, she slapped me. Susan, are you that vengeful? Do you know how embarrassed I was in front of Joe? I told him I liked him and didn't want to just be his sister. And he just turned away without saying a word. I looked her in the eye. I knew he would reject you. What did you say? Tracy laughed angrily and tightened her grip around my neck. You really are out to get me. In my previous life, Joe kept a teasingly distant relationship with me until I accidentally uncovered the secret in the White family's basement. That's when he dropped all pretenses and locked me up, tormenting me day and night. Later, I managed to reach out to my adoptive father, Daniel, for help. He laughed and asked, Susan, why do you think I adopted you in the first place? I couldn't trust other women, so I got you just for him. I planned to keep you for 2 more years, but since you found out, a chill ran down my spine, and then I heard Joe's voice behind me. Susan, you disobeyed and you dared to tattle. Naughty kids need to be punished, you know. Those countless nights of torture and hopelessness would flash through my mind every time I closed my eyes. This time it was Tracy's turn to suffer in my place. Do you want to get him? I struggled to say as Tracy released her grip just before I passed out. What shady idea do you have now? She sneered. I know a secret. Seriously. There's a switch on the second row of Joe's bookshelf. Hit it and a secret door will open. Follow that path and you'll learn his secrets. Tracy chuckled. You're lying. Joe's secret? I didn't even know my brother had secrets. And you've only been to the White House once. How would you know? I leveled with her. Because I'm just like you. I can see the subtitles too. She was taken aback. What? At that moment, helpful subtitles scrolled across. The White family does have a basement, but no one knows what's inside. Joe often moves things down there. He even took a portrait of Tracy last time. Tracy should check it out. There might be a surprise. Her expression softened, and she seemed to believe me. Since you can see subtitles, why didn't you fight me when Daniel came to the orphanage? I played dumb. There were subtitles that day? I only started seeing them a week after you were adopted. With a look of revelation, Tracy said, Our subtitles must be different then. No wonder I didn't know about the basement. She straightened her skirt, smiling faintly. Wait here. If you disappoint me again, you can kiss your tongue goodbye. I got nervous. Let me go. I have to take the college entrance exam tomorrow. Tracy scoffed. "Oh please, your precious exam? You better pray things go well with Joe tonight, or you might not even make it to the exam." Once Tracy left, I secretly fished out the small razor I kept in my pants pocket. Bit by bit, I worked at the jump rope tying me. Cutting the rope was one thing, but it was tricky because Tracy left George to guard the door. George was the worst student, already saying he wouldn't bother with the exam. Tracy knew how much I cared about it, so she made sure George would make me miss it. As I planned my escape, the door swung open. There stood George. We just stared at each other. I quickly grabbed a badminton racket, ready to toss it at his face if he took a step closer. "Get out of here," he said. "Tracy's long gone." I froze, thinking I must have misheard. George came in, handing me my backpack. "All your exam stuff is in here." I took it, puzzled by his actions. "Why are you helping me? I thought you were Tracy's lackey?" He was awkward, unlike ever before. "I like you." I was thunderstruck. This guy who helped Tracy bully me liked me? He fumbled on. "I didn't know how to approach you, so I just, messed around to get your attention." I took a deep breath. "So you bullied me to get my attention?" His face flushed. "Yeah. Unbelievable. Schoolbook definition of misguided." I opened my bag, made sure my exam card and supplies were all there. "Thanks for helping me today, but I don't condone what you did before. That's not how you show affection." After escaping, I didn't go back to my dorm. I got my arm bandaged at a clinic and used the money I got from Tracy to rent a tiny room near the test center. If all went to plan, once Tracy entered that basement, she wouldn't be getting out easily. June 7th, 6 a.m. I woke up before my alarm. After packing up the essentials, I headed to the exam center. Waiting to go in, my nerves were all over the place, worried about what could go wrong. It wasn't until I sat down in the exam room and heard the bell that my heart finally settled. I answered question after question with ease and confidence. Maybe someone up there heard my prayers, because these 3 days turned out to be some of the smoothest in my life. After the exam ended, I hopped on a train to a coastal city to work a summer job. I hadn't heard a peep about Tracy since, until I went back to school to pick up my Oxford acceptance letter. The white group got blasted by the media for cutting corners on a bunch of their products and selling junk. Suddenly, everyone was against white and the public boycotted them. Several companies cut ties with white, their finances collapsed instantly, and the whole thing crumbled. The day their mansion was seized, they found Tracy in the basement, barely alive. The police contacted me because they realized I was her only family. That I saw Tracy at the hospital, and she looked even worse than I remembered. Her fingers were bare. All her nails had been pulled out. "Sister," she said, looking at me like I was her savior. "The white family is terrifying. Will you take me away?" Her eyes were sunken, and her once thick hair had been pulled out by Joe. "Sis, I don't like Joe anymore. He locked me in the basement every day and tortured me with different tools. I'm so scared, really scared. If I had another chance, I'd never listen to those comments and become White's adopted daughter." She held my hand tightly, tears shining in her eyes. "Sis, is there any way I can start over?" I chuckled softly and leaned close to her ear. "Actually, Tracy, the day Daniel posed as a janitor at the orphanage, I saw the comments too. But I've been reborn. In my past life, he adopted me, and I suffered Joe's humiliation in the White family. Susan, you did this on purpose." Tracy went ballistic, jumping off the bed, her bare fingers reaching out angrily. "You made the White family adopt me to set me up." Nurses rushed in and restrained her back to the bed. "Is it safe to confirm mental illness now?" I asked the assessing doctor nearby. He adjusted his glasses and nodded, talking about seeing comments and rebirth. "That's typically symptomatic of a mental disorder. She should stay for treatment. 2 hours earlier, I got a call from Jiang City's top mental hospital. "Are you Tracy's sister?" After Tracy was rescued from the White's basement, the hospital checked her out. The doctor said there were no physical issues, but mentally she seemed troubled. She kept talking about seeing comments and being influenced by them, which led to her current situation. Has she ever shown this behavior before? They asked me. I thought hard for a moment, remembering how the girls at the orphanage openly talked about it in front of the janitor. "Could you come to the hospital to help us with her assessment?" Of course. After graduating from Oxford, I visited Tracy in the psychiatric hospital again. She was skinny like a stick. The loss of fat made her look 30 years older. She begged me, "Sis, I'm not crazy. Will you get me out?" Please, I truly know I was wrong. I won't bully you again, I was just a kid then. Please forgive me." I touched her skeletal face gently. "Don't worry. Sis has a job now and will work harder to pay for your treatment. I'll make sure you stay here in the psych ward until," I leaned close to her ear, "you die." The end.